Okay, we have the great pleasure of having Chris Brake, writer-director, and Karim Younis, composer for Cactus Boy. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Excellent. Cactus Boy, could you tell us what Cactus Boy is about?
Yeah, sure. So Cactus Boy tells the story of a guy called Winston Prickle. He's a plant nursery worker, and he's been working there a while, and he's still kind of clinging on to his childhood imaginary friend. It's the only friend he's got. But one day there's a new person who starts working at the plant nursery, and he starts to kind of form a friendship with her. And he comes to a point where he's got to decide whether or not the time has come to put away childish things and to break up with his imaginary friend. So that's the crux of it.
Fantastic. and it's an incredibly moving piece.
Thank you.
Which tells that story so beautifully and totally enhanced by a beautiful, beautiful soundtrack. Which will come to you in a minute, Karen. We'll come to you in a minute. So the script, when did you conceive it and how long did it take to kind of get to a final draft of the writing?
Yeah, sure. So I've been playing with the idea since I was probably about 14. So it was a sort of a
couple of years ago.
Yeah, I wish. It was like nearly 2 decades gestating. But it had gone through various forms. I mean, when I was 14, I didn't know how to write a screenplay. I just had an idea of this image that I wanted to make. I used to kind of doodle the Cactus Man on my school books and things like that, and I made like a sea model and all this kind of thing. But it was only when I got to the London Film School, and at the end of the course, you have to make your graduation film, your statement going out to the world. That's going to be your showpiece. And this idea had kind of been buzzing around again, and I knew that I wanted to try and do something with it. So I started developing it in sort of my at the beginning of my second year at LFS, and we did like a series of workshops and things, and I would get feedback on the idea, and it started evolving from there. But I'd say that kind of from me taking it seriously as an idea and getting it from script to screen, it was probably only about sort of 6-7 months, something like that. So it was quite a short sort of, I don't know, all of a sudden we had decades of waiting for this idea to come to fruition, and then that was it, hit the ground running.
Fantastic. So you've got this beautiful, beautiful script. How much of it do we see in the final version? Was there anything trimmed? Was there stuff you shot that you didn't put in the edit?
There was, everything that I wrote went on the screen in some form. So there was no deleted scenes from what I remember. The biggest change, I'd say, was probably in the first scene. So originally, we intended to go out into the desert on the first day, and it was going to be, the young Winston was going to be running around amongst all cactus, and he was going to be playing hide and seek with the Cactus Man. But it was kind of sod's law the first day. We had a massive downpour. It was the worst storm they'd had in sort of 10 years. And it all funneled through the valley in Tucson. And we took stock at lunchtime, and we were looking at each other and we thought, can we do it? There's like a slight break in the weather. So we went outside, moved all the crew out there, and as soon as we got everything out, it just started pouring down again. So we sort of said, look, take your lunch break, take an hour. We're going to sort of reconfigure and see what we can actually do with this. So it's me, cinematographer Piero, and our first AD Erin. We stood inside the house, and we just started kind of brainstorming. And I said, well, maybe he can do something inside the house as well, play hide and seek. And Piero said, well, what if he's building a fort like kids do? So we kind of took that ball and we ran with it. And so I was speaking to the kid over lunchtime, and I started getting him involved. I said, do you want to build a fort with me? At that point, it was kind of, not saying we're changing the scene. It was, do you want to build a fort? So he built that, and then we started kind of blocking it around the house. So what you see on the screen now is the young Winston he runs from his mum's bedroom, his old bedroom, through the house, and then he's seeing the Cactus Man peeking out from behind the wardrobe and things like that. And then he destroys the fort, and so that's it was a scene that was rewritten within an hour, and just sort of improvised on the spot. And we literally went room to room with the camera saying, right, we're going to put it here, he's going to run this way, we're going to move it around here, we're going to see him peeking through, we're going to move it to the couch, and we just kind of slowly built up the sequence, and sort of using the original that was in the script as a basis, but completely different.
Fantastic. And love the way you called it Fort Winston.
Oh yeah, that was him, that was the kid, that was his idea. Yeah, I said like, why don't you make a flag for the fort? And he wrote Fort Winston.
And it's me reading all sorts of things into that, never seeing Dad, only Mum's there.
Yeah.
Is this a real difficult challenge for him, Winston, trying to cope with having no father there? Mum's always busy. He's building up these defences around.
Yeah.
And you came up with it on the day. Absolutely stunning.
Well, I mean, we always knew that with the mother figure and you know the absence of the father.
Yes.
We always knew that was going to be a kind of a big element of his character and how he was dealing with things through creating the Cactus Man. And with the mother, we made the conscious decision that we never wanted to show her face on the screen. We only sort of see her from the waist down or out of focus, and we were just kind of thinking about, she is a presence in his life, but always over his shoulder, always like a nagging thing, never a pleasant presence.
Yes.
So it was a way of kind of just visually saying, there's this woman here that he's not quite. Doesn't have, he's not simpatico with her, but yeah, he's kind of stuck in her house, and so there's this other life that he creates for himself.
But why cactuses, cacti?
Yeah.
And would the location be the answer to that question? If I asked you why the location, is that going to come from the first question?
Yes. So with cacti, it was kind of. This was going back to sort of my teenage scribblings, and it was always sort of about this idea of a character that you couldn't touch him. He was prickly, he was distant, he was. There was something about him that was, it was a fun image because cactus look like humans when they're out in the desert anyway. And I don't know if you notice in the scene where Winston takes the cactus out into the desert. We found a cactus, or two cacti, that were sort of hugging each other. They'd grown around each other, so the things were embracing, and we sort of staged it all there. I mean, to the question that the desert location, it came out of the character. I knew that I wanted to film in the desert. I couldn't get away with just doing it like an English plant nursery or something, because it had to feel like, his whole life, every wall that he built around himself, it was all around this character. He found a job where he could surround himself with the cacti. It felt natural to him. All of his decoration in the house is kind of cacti theme, and it was kind of feeding back and forth. I wanted the audience to kind of almost subconsciously think, okay, that's where he got the inspiration from. The fact that he's so immersed, and that the house is sort of in the middle of the desert. It's kind of ranch out in the middle of nowhere. Just another kind of isolation that he had, apart from the isolation he had from his mother, that physical separation.
I know you guys have worked before, because you told me just before the interview. Fantastic. I've got to say, one of the most beautiful scores. It's incredibly subtle, and there's lots of places where there isn't any music. But that gives it more strength when it comes in. We have this amazing contemplative Winston motif. It blows us away every time we hear it. So talk to us about your relationship, how you look at the I won't call them the brushes because we're way past brushes. You look at what Chris gives you. How do you come up with a concept, the motifs, etc., etc.?
Absolutely. Well, it starts definitely earlier than the film itself. We normally have a talk, and we go for a coffee and we talk about the idea. Then there's the script we're reading. It starts really from the sketch itself, from the illustrations he had. So the idea, actually, the theme itself was there before the film. And what happened then during the film itself, or when we were building it, was how can I build the theme so that it can actually follow what's happening in the film itself. So that's a beautiful way. That's about communication, I think, and that's how we really relate music and film together. We understand each other. We talk little things like the color palette, even. That I love colors. I love to think of colors inside of the music itself, and he's so into colors. So he always starts the film, Chris, with a color palette, and from there I start the music itself. So it's interesting how we take also elements that are not into the story itself, but are into other details, and then from there something happens,
Yes.
magic happens, and we have the music itself, and we can build it from there.
And obviously it works wonderful, but how do you, what made you choose the instruments? So you've got the piano motif, you've got strings going on. How do you come to that point? For people out there like aspiring young musicians or composers, how do you get to that? How do you read the script and, well, you know, I want drums there, but no, I don't want drums, I want a really touching piano at that point. I want the cello to go. How do you do that for any aspiring sort of composer out there?
Sure, well, I have to say I have a beautiful influence from Thomas Newman, from Ennio Morricone. Those are composers that I really love. And from there, my passion also to work with strings a lot in itself. And when the story came, and Cactus Boy was being a film itself, and I thought that's the perfect moment to go and to use those beautiful warm strings and to have something with them. And I had the opportunity to work with incredible musicians. I recorded at Masterclass Studios in London. And knowing the musicians themselves, because I studied at the Royal College of Music, and that's where I know also most of the musicians. And I think as the same communication I have with the director, I need the same communication with the musicians themselves. When I talk to them, when I try to express what I want from the music itself. So all of this together made me think, I know the perfect violin players, I know the perfect cello players for the piece. They would definitely understand the story, they would definitely understand what I want from that. It's a family work all together, and that's how it went, so easily, so smoothly. I remember you also came for the recording session.
Yeah, I came along and watched it. It was great.
Oh, you watched the recording?
Oh yeah. It was beautiful. It was. I was sat just outside the studio watching it all kind of
I
take
bet it
place.
blew you away, didn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I'd heard like the rough kind of sketches that you sent through of what it was going to sound like, but it's only when you see someone sitting there playing the violins and cellos, and you've got the film on the screen in front of you that you know. It was the first time it just, kind of hit me.
It is something.
Great. So, very briefly, what's next, Chris?
So I've got another short film that I'm going to try and get off the ground. So it's about a retired comedian who she knits her own audience because she misses having a real one. But then one of the audience comes to life and starts heckling her, and she's sort of has to confront her past career and what she's going to do with the rest of her life. And I've also just finished a first draft of a feature that I want to try and hopefully get funded. So that's kind of a bit of the longer time, but yeah.
And I think you must be mad if you don't have
this
man on your team. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you both so much, and we hope you submit anything else next year to us. That would be absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for submitting this year.
I think
A most beautiful film that we really, really love to pieces. Thank you both so much.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.